Baby saw a German shepherd tied beside the river. What happened next? Left. Everyone in tears. The screaming started at 3:47 p.m. on a Sunday that should have been perfect. What 5-year-old Marcus discovered that day would expose a dark conspiracy, uncover a soldier's final secret, and prove that sometimes the youngest hearts see the clearest truths. If you think you know where this story is going, you're wrong. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from in the comments below. Marcus had been counting red cars from the picnic blanket when he heard it, a sound that made his small chest tight with a feeling he couldn't name. Not quite a bark, not quite a cry, but something desperate and raw that pulled at him like invisible strings. His mother, Sarah, was busy changing his baby sister's diaper, making those silly faces that usually made him laugh. His father, Tom, was at the grill, smoke curling up as he flipped burgers and argued with Uncle Pete about last night's game. Mommy, Marcus tugged at Sarah's sleeve, but she was wiping spit up from Emma's chin. Mommy, something's crying. Just a minute, sweetheart, Sarah said, not looking up. Almost done here. The sound came again, carried on the wind from somewhere near the water. Marcus stood up, his dinosaur sneakers sinking slightly into the grass. The river wasn't far. He could see it glinting through the trees like broken glass. They'd been warned not to go near it. The current was strong this time of year, Tom had said. Spring melt made it dangerous. But that sound, that terrible, lonely sound. Marcus looked back at his parents. Tom was laughing at something Uncle Pete said, beer in hand. Sarah was lifting Emma up, cooing at her. Nobody was watching him. Nobody ever really watched him when Emma was around anymore. His feet moved before he could think about it. Just to look. Just to see what was making that sound. He'd be back before anyone noticed. The grass turned to mud as he got closer to the river. His sneakers made squelching sounds with each step. The crying was louder now, mixed with something else. Splashing. Panic. Marcus pushed through the last cluster of bushes and froze. A German shepherd was tied to a thick oak tree right at the water's edge. The rope around its neck was short, maybe 3 feet, and the rising tide had already covered the dog's paws. Water lapped at its belly. The animal's eyes, brown and wide with terror, locked onto Marcus immediately. "Oh no," Marcus whispered, his heart hammered against his ribs. "Oh no, oh no." The dog stopped thrashing when it saw him, just stared, breathing hard, sides heaving. There was something in those eyes that Marcus recognized but couldn't explain. Like when Grandma looked at old photos and got quiet. Like sadness that had been there so long it became part of you. Marcus stepped closer. The mud sucked at his shoes. "It's okay," he said, using the voice Mommy used when he had bad dreams. "I'll help you." The rope was wet and swollen, tied in complicated knots around the tree trunk. Marcus's small fingers pulled at them, but they wouldn't budge. The water was rising faster now. He could see it creeping up the dog's legs. Time was running out. "Mommy!" Marcus screamed, but the wind threw his voice the wrong way. "Daddy! Help!" Nothing. They were too far away, the sounds of the picnic and Uncle Pete's loud laugh drowning out his cries. Marcus turned back to the dog, tears burning his eyes. He couldn't leave it. He wouldn't. That's when something strange happened. As Marcus placed his hand on the dog's head, trying to comfort it, images flashed through his mind like a broken movie. A man in military uniform, desert sand, explosions, the taste of dust and fear. Marcus gasped, pulling his hand back, but the images kept coming. The dog whined, and suddenly Marcus knew, absolutely knew, that its name was Rex. He didn't know how he knew, but the knowledge sat in his mind as solid as his own name. "Rex," he whispered. The dog's whole body went still. Its eyes widened, tail attempting a weak wag despite the rising water. "Your name is Rex," Marcus said, more confident now. He put his hand back on the dog's head, and this time he didn't pull away when the images came. A soldier's face, young and smiling. The same face, older, tired, scared, darkness, pain, and then nothing. "He's not coming back, is he?" Marcus asked Rex. "Your person. He's not coming back." Rex whined again, a sound so full of grief that Marcus felt it in his bones. The water was at Rex's chest now. Marcus pulled harder at the rope, his small fingers turning red and raw. "Please!" He begged the knots. Please, please, please! That's when he noticed the tags on Rex's collar, military tags that caught the light. Marcus couldn't read all the words, but he saw SGT David Miller clearly enough. There were numbers too, and something that looked like blood, old and brown, staining the metal. The water kept rising. Rex was having to hold his head higher now, neck straining. Marcus was crying openly, pulling at the rope with everything he had. His hands were bleeding. He didn't care. I won't leave you, he promised Rex. I won't let you die alone. Rex looked at him with those ancient, sad eyes, and Marcus saw more images. A man, not the soldier, someone else, approaching in the early morning darkness. Rough hands, a black truck, being dragged here, tied up. The man's face was hidden, but Marcus could feel Rex's confusion and betrayal. This wasn't a stranger. This was someone Rex had trusted. Someone hurt you on purpose, Marcus said, anger making his voice shake. Someone bad. The water was at Rex's neck. The dog was struggling to keep his head above the surface, paws scrambling for purchase on the muddy riverbank. Marcus made a decision. He stepped into the water. It was cold, so cold it stole his breath. The current tugged at his legs immediately, trying to pull him downstream. But Marcus wrapped his arms around Rex's neck, holding the dog's head above water. Help! He screamed again. Somebody help us! Rex was shaking, whether from cold or fear Marcus didn't know. Maybe both. The water was at Marcus's waist now, and rising. His teeth chattered, his legs felt numb, but he held on. It's okay, he whispered to Rex, though nothing was okay. We're together. You're not alone. That's when he heard it, his mother's scream. Marcus! Footsteps pounding through the grass, shouting. Tom's voice, closer now, filled with panic. Oh my God, Marcus, get out of the water! But Marcus couldn't let go. If he let go, Rex would drown. The dog! He shouted back. Help the dog! Tom crashed through the bushes, Uncle Pete right behind him. They both stopped for a split second, taking in the scene. Marcus waist-deep in rising water, arms wrapped around a German shepherd's neck, both of them shaking. Jesus Christ, Uncle Pete breathed. Tom was already moving, plunging into the water. Pete, call 911, now! Tom reached them in 3 powerful strides, the water at his thighs. He grabbed Marcus, trying to pull him away, but Marcus held tighter to Rex. No! Marcus screamed. We can't leave him. He's tied up. He'll drown. Tom's eyes followed the rope to the tree, understanding flooding his face. Pete, get a knife. Anything sharp. Now. Uncle Pete was already on his phone, shouting their location to emergency services. Sarah appeared at the water's edge, Emma in her arms, her face white with terror. The rope's too tight, Tom grunted, pulling at the knots with his larger hands. It's swollen from the water. Rex was barely keeping his nose above water now, even with Marcus trying to hold him up. The dog's eyes had gone glassy, resigned. He'd stopped struggling. No, 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 Marcus sobbed. Rex, stay awake. Your soldier needs you to stay awake. Tom froze. What did you say? His soldier, Marcus cried. Sergeant David Miller. It's on his tags. Someone hurt Rex because David's gone. Tom's hands moved faster on the rope, desperation making him clumsy. The water was rising faster, spring melt combined with high tide. They were running out of time. That's when they heard the sirens, close, getting closer. But would they be fast enough? Hold on, buddy, Tom said, though it wasn't clear if he was talking to Marcus or Rex. Just hold on. The fire truck screeched to a halt somewhere behind the trees, voices shouting, equipment clanging, heavy footsteps running toward them. Captain Jake Morrison burst through the bushes, taking in the situation with trained eyes. We need bolt cutters, he shouted to his team. Now! 2 more firefighters appeared, one carrying heavy-duty cutting tools. Captain Jake waded into the water without hesitation, the current pulling at his heavy gear. Sir, I need you to take your son and move back, Jake said to Tom. No! Marcus screamed, his grip on Rex tightening. I promised! I promised. Wouldn't leave him. Jake's expression softened. He was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes beneath his helmet. Hey, buddy. What's your name? Marcus. Okay, Marcus. I'm Jake. We're going to save your dog, but I need you to let my team work. Can you do that? He's not my dog, Marcus said through chattering teeth. He's Rex. He belonged to Sergeant David Miller, and someone tied him here to die because David's not coming back. Jake exchanged a quick glance with Tom. How does he? I don't know, Tom said. Please, just cut the rope. The firefighter with the bolt cutters was already in position, the tool's jaws closing around the thick rope. With a sharp snap, Rex was free, but the dog was too weak to swim, immediately starting to sink. Jake caught him, lifting the German Shepherd's considerable weight with a grunt. Got him! Everyone out of the water, now! Tom carried Marcus, who was reaching back toward Rex, still sobbing. They stumbled onto dry land, all of them soaked and shaking. Jake laid Rex on the grass, the dog's sides barely moving. He's not breathing right, one of the firefighters said. Marcus pulled free from Tom's arms and dropped to his knees beside Rex. He put his small hands on the dog's head, and everyone saw him go very still. His eyes got that distant look, like he was seeing something none of them could see. The mountains, Marcus whispered. David's in the mountains. Rex dreams about him every night. A cabin with a red door. That's where. He trailed off, blinking like he was coming back from somewhere far away. We need to get them both to the hospital, Captain Jake said, but his voice was different now, uncertain. That water was freezing. The boy could be hypothermic. Sarah was there suddenly, wrapping Marcus in the picnic blanket, pulling him against her. Baby, you're ice cold. What were you thinking? Rex needed help, Marcus said simply. He was alone. The paramedics had arrived, checking Marcus's vitals while the firefighters worked on Rex. The dog was breathing, but barely. His eyes were closed. There's something on his collar, one of the firefighters said. Military tags. And is that blood? Jake leaned closer, reading the tags. His face went pale. David Miller, I know that name. He pulled out his phone, typing quickly. After a moment, he looked up, expression grim. Sergeant David Miller, reported missing in action 2 years ago in Afghanistan. His unit was ambushed, body never recovered. But he's not in Afghanistan, Marcus said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. He's in the mountains, in the cabin with the red door. Rex knows. Rex has been waiting for him to come home. Sweetheart, Sarah said gently, how could you possibly know that? Marcus looked at Rex, who had opened his eyes and was staring directly at him. He shows me. In my head. Like pictures, but not pictures. Like memories, but not mine. Tom and Sarah exchanged worried glances over his head. The paramedics were, insisting Marcus needed to be examined at the hospital. But Captain Jake was still staring at the boy, with an expression of growing amazement. 2 years ago, Jake said slowly, there were rumors that David Miller made it home, that he was seen in town a few times before disappearing again. Everyone assumed it was just wishful thinking, people seeing what they wanted to see. But what if? What if he made it back, but something happened to him? Tom finished. Rex whined, trying to lift his head. Marcus scooted closer, ignoring his parents' protests. Someone hurt David, he said with absolute certainty. The same someone who tied Rex here. Rex knows who, but he can't tell me clearly. It's all mixed up with sadness. This is insane, Uncle Pete muttered, but even he looked unsettled. Captain Jake made a decision. We need to get the police involved. If there's even a chance David Miller is alive, or that his body is somewhere in those mountains, we need to investigate. He looked at Marcus. Would Rex be able to show us where? Marcus touched Rex's head again, closing his eyes. After a long moment, he nodded. Rex knows the way. He's walked it in his dreams every night for 2 years. The ambulance took Marcus to the hospital for observation, Sarah riding with him, while Tom followed in their car with Emma and Uncle Pete. Rex was taken to the emergency veterinary clinic, Captain Jake, personally ensuring he got there safely. The tags on his collar were photographed and sent to the police department. At the hospital, Marcus was treated for mild hypothermia and the cuts on his hands from the rope. The doctor, an older woman named Dr. Patricia Santos, was concerned about his claims of seeing things when he touched the dog. Has Marcus ever shown signs of unusual sensitivity before? She asked Sarah carefully. Sarah hesitated. He's always been intuitive. He knew when my mother was sick before we got the call. He told Tom not to take the highway to work one day, and there was a terrible accident that morning. Little things. But nothing like this. Dr. Santos made notes. The cold water, the stress of the situation, it could have triggered something. The mind does unusual things under extreme circumstances. But Marcus wasn't hallucinating. He sat up in the hospital bed, looking directly at the doctor. Rex is scared. He's at the vet, but he thinks I abandoned him. He doesn't understand why I'm not there. Sweetheart, Rex is being taken care of, Sarah soothed. He needs me, Marcus insisted. He's been alone for so long. Everyone he loved left him. First David, then David's wife moved away. And now someone tried to kill him. He thinks I left too. Dr. Santos studied the boy. How do you know David had a wife? Marcus tilted his head like he was listening to something. Rex shows me. Her name was Jennifer. She smelled like vanilla and gave Rex bacon when David wasn't looking. She cried a lot after David didn't come home. Then one day she put Rex in a car and drove him to someone else's house. Rex didn't understand why she left him there. Sarah's hand covered her mouth. Tom was already pulling out his phone, searching for information about David Miller. After a moment, he looked up, face pale. David Miller's wife was named Jennifer. She remarried and moved to California 18 months ago. He showed them his phone screen, a news article about the missing sergeant. The dog isn't mentioned, but she couldn't take Rex with her, Marcus finished. So she left him with someone she thought would take care of him. Someone David trusted. But that person knew something about David, something bad. The room fell silent. Dr. Santos set down her clipboard. I think we need to call the police. Now. Detective Lisa Chen arrived within the hour. She was young for a detective, maybe 35, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd already been briefed on the situation by Captain Jake and had reviewed the initial reports. So, Marcus, she said, sitting beside his hospital bed, can you tell me everything that happened today? Start from the beginning. Marcus told her about hearing Rex crying, about going to help, about the images he saw when he touched the dog. Detective Chen took notes, asking careful questions. You said someone tied Rex there on purpose. Did Rex show you who? Marcus closed his eyes, concentrating. A man, tall, dark hair going gray. He drives a black truck, an old one with a dent in the front. He smells like cigarettes and motor oil. Rex trusted him before, but this morning he was different, angry, scared. This morning, Detective Chen leaned forward. You mean Rex was tied up this morning? Marcus nodded. Early, when it was still dark. The man kept saying, I'm sorry, boy, but you know too much. You always go back there. Someone's going to follow you eventually. Tom interrupted. How could Marcus know what the man said? He wasn't there. Rex remembers, Marcus said simply. Dogs remember differently than people. They remember in feelings and smells and pictures. The words are fuzzy, but the feelings are clear. Detective Chen was already on her phone, calling for surveillance footage from the area. If someone was at the river this morning, there might be traffic cameras that caught them. While she coordinated with her team, a nurse knocked and entered. There's a veterinarian on the phone, Dr. Emily Wilson. She says it's urgent about the dog. Sarah took the call, putting it on speaker. Dr. Wilson's voice was tense. Mrs. Peterson, I'm calling about Rex. We've stabilized him, but I found something concerning. There's evidence of long-term neglect. Not severe enough to kill him, but enough to weaken him. And there's something else. We found a microchip, but it's not registered to David Miller. Who's it registered to? Detective Chen asked, identifying herself. Robert Miller, David's brother. The room went silent. Marcus sat up, straighter, his eyes wide. That's him. That's the man Rex is afraid of. David's brother. Detective Chen was already typing on her phone. Robert Miller, I need everything we have on him. She looked up at Marcus. What else does Rex know about Robert? Marcus touched his temples like his head hurt. It's confusing. Rex loved Robert at first because he smelled like David, but Robert was different. He got angry when Rex would leave the house and go to the mountains. He'd bring Rex back and lock him inside, but Rex always found a way out. He had to get to David. He promised. Promised? Sarah asked softly. Soldiers and their dogs promise to take care of each other, Marcus said, and his voice sounded older somehow. Rex promised to always find David, always protect him. Even when David didn't come home, Rex kept his promise. He kept going to the place where David is sleeping, Captain Jake had arrived at the hospital, still in his firefighter gear. He'd been listening from the doorway. The mountains. There are dozens of cabins up there, abandoned mining camps, hunting lodges. If David's body is up there, it could take weeks to search. Rex knows exactly where, Marcus said with complete confidence. He's been visiting David for 2 years. Detective Chen stood up. We need to move fast. If Robert Miller realizes Rex survived and is now with people who might listen to what the dog knows, he might run. Or worse, he might try to destroy evidence. She made several quick calls, setting things in motion. Within minutes, she had confirmation that Robert Miller owned a black Ford truck with front-end damage. He'd reported it stolen 3 days ago, but the report was suspicious, filed after the supposed theft would have occurred, like he was establishing an alibi. There's more, her partner reported over the phone. Robert Miller was the sole beneficiary of David's military life insurance, $500,000, but it was only paid out 6 months ago when David was officially declared dead. So he had motive to keep David from being found, Tom said. But Rex kept going back to wherever David is, Sarah added, understanding dawning on her face. And Robert was afraid someone would follow the dog. Marcus was getting agitated, shifting in the hospital bed. Rex is scared. He thinks Robert is coming for him. We need to protect Rex. Detective Chen immediately called for a unit to be posted at the veterinary clinic. But even as she gave the orders, Marcus was shaking his head. Not there. Robert won't go there. He's going to the cabin. He's going to move David. How do you know that? Detective Chen asked. Marcus's eyes were unfocused, seeing something none of them could see. Because Rex can feel him. The connection between Rex and David, it goes both ways. And right now, Rex feels David getting farther away. That's impossible, Doctor, Santos said. If David is dead, he's not dead, Marcus suddenly shouted, making everyone jump. Tears were streaming down his face. Rex would know if he was dead. Rex has been bringing him food, keeping him warm. David's hurt, he can't move, can't speak, but he's alive. And Robert's taking him somewhere else. Somewhere Rex won't be able to find him. The room erupted in activity. Detective Chen was barking orders into her phone. Captain Jake was mobilizing search and rescue. But it was Tom who asked the crucial question. Marcus, can Rex lead us there, right now? Marcus closed his eyes, and when he opened them, they were filled with desperate urgency. Rex says we have to hurry. David's light is getting dimmer. He's been holding on for so long, waiting for Rex to bring help. If Robert moves him now... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Detective Chen made the decision. We go now. Get Rex from the vet. Marcus comes with us. We need him to interpret what the dog knows. This is crazy, but if there's even a chance Sergeant Miller is alive, Dr. Santos protested. The boy needs rest. He was hypothermic. I'm fine, Marcus interrupted, already climbing out of bed. Rex needs me. David needs me. Sarah looked at Tom, a silent conversation passing between them. Finally, she nodded. We're coming too. The convoy that headed into the mountains an hour later was impressive. Police cars, Captain Jake's rescue unit, an ambulance, and Tom's SUV carrying Marcus and Rex, who'd been released from the vet against medical advice. The German Shepherd was weak but alert, his head in Marcus's lap as they drove. Marcus kept up a steady stream of whispered conversation with Rex, occasionally sharing what he learned. The cabin is old, mining camp from long ago. Red door, Rex painted it with his paws after walking through David's blood. He was trying to mark it so people would find it. Detective Chen, riding with them, took notes. How long has David been there? Since the beginning. He made it home, but Robert was waiting. They fought. Robert hit him with something heavy, thought he was dead. Took him to the old cabin their father used for hunting. But David woke up, hurt too bad to walk, to call for help. Robert's been keeping him there, barely alive, waiting for the insurance money. For 2 years? Tom asked, incredulous. Robert brings supplies sometimes, not enough. Rex figured out how to get inside through a broken board. He's been bringing David rabbits, birds, keeping him warm in winter. David taught Rex to hunt in Afghanistan. Rex remembered. The road got rougher as they climbed higher into the mountains. Rex suddenly sat up, whining, pawing at the window. We're close, Marcus said. But something's wrong. Robert's already there. Detective Chen radioed the other units. Suspect possibly on scene. Approach with caution. They rounded a bend and saw it. A black truck parked beside a barely visible trail. Detective Chen called for backup to hold position, while she and 2 officers moved in at first. But Rex was already struggling to get out, his whines becoming desperate barks. "He's hurting David!" Marcus cried. "Rex can feel it!" What happened next occurred so fast that witnesses would give conflicting accounts later. Rex somehow managed to push open the SUV door. Tom would swear he'd locked it and took off up the trail despite his weakened state. Marcus was right behind him before anyone could stop him. "Marcus!" Sarah screamed, but the boy and dog had vanished into the trees. The entire convoy erupted into motion. Officers and firefighters crashed through the woods, following the sounds of Rex's barking. Detective Chen was shouting into her radio, trying to coordinate the chaos. Marcus ran faster than he'd ever run in his life, his small legs pumping, following Rex's dark form through the trees. His chest burned, his feet slipped on pine needles, but he couldn't stop. In his mind, he could feel what Rex felt: urgency, rage, desperate love. They burst into a clearing where an old cabin sat, its door hanging open. The door had once been red, but weather and time had faded it to a rusty brown, except for the paw prints, dozens of them, where Rex had marked it with blood long ago. Robert Miller stood in the doorway, a gas can in his hand. He spun at the sound of Rex's snarls, his face a mask of shock and fear. "You should be dead," he said to the dog. Then his eyes found Marcus. "Who?" Rex didn't give him time to finish. The German Shepherd launched himself at Robert with strength born of 2 years of waiting, of protecting, of holding on to hope. They went down hard, the gas can flying, liquid splashing across the wooden porch. "Rex, no!" Marcus shouted, not because he wanted to save Robert, but because he could feel Rex's heart straining, the last of his strength burning away in this final act of protection. Robert was screaming, trying to fight off the dog, but Rex's jaws had found his arm and wouldn't let go. That's when Marcus saw inside the cabin. A figure lay on a makeshift bed in the corner, thin, still, but breathing. David Miller, alive but barely. His eyes were open, staring at the doorway, tears streaming down his gaunt face as he watched his dog fight for him one more time. "Police! Nobody move!" Detective Chen and her officers flooded the clearing, weapons drawn. Robert stopped struggling, and Rex finally released him, collapsing on the porch, his breathing labored. Marcus ran to Rex, dropping to his knees beside the dog. "You did it," he whispered, hands gentle on Rex's head. "You saved him. You kept your promise." While officers secured Robert, paramedics rushed into the cabin. The radio crackled with urgent medical terminology. David Miller was alive, dehydrated, malnourished, suffering from untreated injuries, but alive. Captain Jake emerged from the cabin, his face grim. He can't speak. Traumatic brain injury from the looks of it. He's been conscious, but unable to move or call for help. If what the kid said is true, the dog's been keeping him alive. This whole time, Marcus looked up at him. Rex brought him food, lay beside him for warmth, licked his wounds clean. David taught Rex to be a soldier, and Rex never forgot his mission, protect and serve. They loaded David onto a stretcher, and as they carried him past, his eyes found Rex. His hand, skeletal and weak, reached out. Rex, despite his exhaustion, crawled forward until David's fingers found his fur. Marcus watched them, tears streaming down his face. David says thank you. He says Rex is the best soldier he ever served with. "He can't speak," one of the paramedics said gently. "Not with words," Marcus replied, "but Rex hears him." As the ambulance prepared to leave with David, Rex tried to follow, whining pitifully. He'd never left David's side in 2 years except to hunt. The separation was agony. "The dog needs immediate veterinary care, Doctor," Wilson said. She'd arrived with a mobile unit. "He's pushed himself too far." But Rex wouldn't be moved, his eyes fixed on the ambulance. Marcus understood. He needs to go with David. They can't be separated, not now. Detective Chen made a quick decision. The dog rides in the ambulance. The boy too. They're witnesses, and clearly they're the only ones who can keep both David and Rex calm. It was irregular, probably against a dozen regulations, but nobody argued. Marcus climbed into the ambulance with Rex, the dog immediately settling beside David's stretcher. David's hand found Rex's head, and for the first time in 2 years, both soldier and dog seemed at peace. As they drove down the mountain, Marcus sat between them, one hand on Rex, the other holding David's free hand. He could feel their connection, strong as steel despite everything they had endured, love, loyalty, and promises kept against impossible odds. "You're going to be okay," Marcus told them both. "You're together now." That's all that matters. But even as he said it, Marcus could feel something else through his connection with Rex. Robert hadn't acted alone. There were others involved, others who'd helped keep David prisoner, who'd benefited from his supposed death. Rex had seen them, smelled them, remembered them. The story was far from over. At the hospital, chaos reigned. David was rushed into surgery while Rex was taken to the veterinary wing, which the hospital had specially opened for this unprecedented case. Marcus refused to leave either of them, and his parents, recognizing something profound was happening to their son, didn't force him. While David was in surgery, Marcus sat with Rex, who was receiving IV fluids and oxygen. The dog's eyes never left the door, waiting for news of his soldier. "He's going to live," Marcus told Rex, though he wasn't sure if he was receiving this information or just hoping. "David's strong. He held on for 2 years because he knew you'd bring help. He never gave up on you." Dr. Wilson checked Rex's vitals, shaking her head in amazement. "This dog should be dead." The physical stress he's endured, not just today but for 2 years, keeping another being alive while slowly starving himself. It's medically impossible. "Love makes things possible," Marcus said simply. Detective Chen arrived with updates. Robert Miller was in custody, and he was talking. "He's claiming it was an accident. Says David showed up at his house, confused and aggressive due to his head injury. They fought, and David fell, hit his head again. Robert panicked, took him to the cabin, meaning to get help, but then realized if David died, he'd get the insurance money." "That's not true," Marcus said firmly. "Rex saw it all. Robert hit David with a shovel in his garage. It was planned. Robert knew David was coming home. Someone told him. Someone at the military base who helped fake the reports saying David was missing in action." Detective Chen leaned forward. "How could Rex know that?" "Dogs understand more than we think," Marcus said. "Rex was there when Robert was on the phone before David came home. He heard the words, even if he didn't understand them all. But he understood David, tomorrow, money, and accident. He tried to warn David, but David didn't understand why Rex was so agitated when they went to Robert's house." "We'll need more than a dog's testimony," Detective Chen said, though she was taking notes. "Check Robert's phone records from 2 years ago," Marcus suggested, the week before David came home. "And check who at the base had access to David's travel plans." The detective studied the 5-year-old boy, who spoke with the certainty of someone much older. "Marcus, I have to ask, how do you really know these things?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, his hand gentle on Rex's head. "I don't know how to explain it. When I touch Rex, I see what he's seen, feel what he's felt. Not perfectly, not like watching a movie, but in pieces, feelings, smells, moments, and Rex. Rex remembers everything about David, every moment, every word, every promise. Has this happened with other animals?" Marcus shook his head. "Not like this. Rex is different, maybe because he's been alone with his memories for so long, they're stronger. Or maybe because his love for David is so big it spills over, and I can feel it." Dr. Wilson interrupted. "Detective, Rex's heart rate is dropping. He's stable, but he's exhausted. He needs rest." But Rex wouldn't rest. He kept trying to stand, to go find David. Marcus could feel his anxiety, his need to complete his mission. "He won't rest until he knows David is safe," Marcus explained. 3 hours later, a surgeon came to update them. David's surgery had gone well. The old injuries had been addressed, and while he faced a long recovery, he was expected to survive. "He's asking for his dog," the surgeon said, looking confused. "He can't speak, but he keeps signing something. We had to bring in an ASL interpreter." "He learned sign language?" Sarah asked. "Apparently. The interpreter says he's signing Rex over and over." Marcus stood up. "Rex needs to see him. They both need it. Hospital rules were bent again." Rex, on a wheeled veterinary gurney, was brought to David's recovery room. The moment they saw each other, both man and dog visibly relaxed. David's hand, 4 tubes in all, reached out. Rex, despite his weakness, stretched his neck to meet him. Marcus watched them, tears in his eyes. David's saying thank you. He's saying Rex is his hero. The ASL interpreter looked startled. That's exactly what he's signing. How did you know? Rex knows, Marcus said simply. And Rex shows me. Over the next few days, as both David and Rex recovered, the full story began to emerge. Robert Miller, facing overwhelming evidence, finally confessed. But his confession revealed something darker, a conspiracy that went beyond one greedy brother. There were 3 others, Detective Chen told the family. Military personnel who helped fake David's MIA status in exchange for a cut of the insurance money. They thought David had died in Afghanistan, but when he survived and made it home, they had to improvise. Marcus, who had been sitting quietly with Rex, suddenly spoke up. Sergeant Collins, Corporal Martinez, and someone higher up. Rex doesn't know his name, but he smelled like expensive cologne and had white hair. Detective Chen stared at him. We haven't released any names yet. Rex heard them talking at Robert's house. After they put David in the cabin, they came to plan what to do. Rex was hiding under the porch. He heard everything. The investigation exploded outward. Based on Marcus's insights, or rather Rex's memories filtered through Marcus, the FBI got involved. The conspiracy reached higher than anyone had imagined. A general at the base had been selling information about troop movements, and David had discovered it. His disappearance had been convenient for many people, but the most remarkable development came a week later. David, through painstaking sign language and with Rex always at his side, began to communicate more complex thoughts. The brain injury that had stolen his speech hadn't taken his mind. He'd been conscious and aware for 2 years, unable to move or speak, kept alive only by Rex's devotion. He says Rex talked to him, the interpreter translated, looking skeptical. Not in words, but in feelings. He says Rex told him every day that help was coming, that he shouldn't give up. Marcus nodded. Dogs can't lie. When Rex promised, David believed him. The media sensation was immediate and overwhelming. The story of the soldier kept alive by his dog's loyalty, the conspiracy to hide his survival, and the 5-year-old boy who could somehow understand what Rex knew. It captivated the world. But for Marcus, the attention was difficult. He didn't want to be special. He just wanted Rex and David to be okay. One evening, as Marcus sat between David's bed and Rex's veterinary bed, they'd been moved to the same room at everyone's insistence. He felt something shift. The connection with Rex was changing, becoming less intense. You're getting better, Marcus said to Rex. You don't need me to speak for you anymore. Rex's tail wagged, and he looked at David, who was practicing sign language with the interpreter. They were learning to communicate in new ways, adapting to their new reality. Will I still understand you? Marcus asked Rex quietly. In response, Rex placed his paw on Marcus's hand, and Marcus felt a wave of warmth, gratitude, and love. Not as intense as before, but still there. A gift that would never fully fade. Detective Chen visited with final updates on the case. All 4 conspirators had been arrested. The military was conducting a full investigation. Robert Miller would likely spend the rest of his life in prison. Marcus, she said, kneeling beside the boy, what you did, however you did it, saved 2 lives. You're a hero. Marcus shook his head. Rex is the hero. He never gave up. He loved David enough to do the impossible. Love makes us all capable of the impossible, Detective Chen agreed. As she left, Marcus noticed David trying to sign something to him. The interpreter helped. He says thank you for believing Rex. Thank you for hearing what others couldn't hear. Marcus smiled. Rex has a loud heart. It was easy to hear once I listened. 2 months later, at David's rehabilitation facility, a ceremony was held. Rex was officially awarded a Medal for Valor, the first dog to receive such an honor from both military and civilian authorities. David, in a wheelchair but improving daily, pinned the medal to Rex's collar with shaking hands. Marcus and his family were there, of course. The connection between the boy and dog had evolved into a deep friendship, though the intense psychic bond had faded as Rex healed. Marcus could still sense Rex's emotions when they touched, but it was gentler now, less overwhelming. "Do you miss it?" Sarah asked her son. "Being able to understand Rex so clearly?" Marcus thought about it. No. Rex needed someone to hear him when he couldn't make anyone understand. Now he has David back. They can understand each other without words. They don't need me anymore. It wasn't entirely true. Sometimes when Rex was particularly emotional, Marcus would still get flashes of images, feelings, memories. But they were gifts now, not desperate cries for help. The ceremony was beautiful, but the best moment came after, when David stood up from his wheelchair, his first unassisted steps since the injury. He walked 3 shaky steps to Rex, then knelt and hugged his dog. No one could hear what David whispered to Rex, but Marcus felt it through the residual connection, pure love, gratitude, and a promise to never be separated again. 6 months after the rescue, Marcus received a letter. It was from David, written slowly and carefully in shaky handwriting. "Dear Marcus, they tell me you saved us. But I think you did more than that. You reminded the world that love speaks in languages we've forgotten how to hear. Rex and I are learning to walk again, him on legs weakened by sacrifice, me on legs weakened by injury. We walk together, as we always have. The doctors say what Rex did was impossible, keeping me alive for 2 years, finding help when all hope was lost. But you and I know better. Love makes the impossible possible. Thank you for listening when no one else could hear. Your friend always, David and Rex." Attached was a photo. David and Rex on a mountain trail, both thin but strong, looking at a sunrise. Rex wore his medal. David wore his uniform. Both looked at peace. Marcus kept the letter in a special box, along with Rex's old collar that David had sent him, the one with the military tags that had helped identify him that first day by the river. Sometimes, when Marcus held the collar, he could still feel echoes of Rex's memories. Not sad anymore, but full of quiet joy. A year passed. Marcus started first grade. He was a quiet child who seemed to understand animals in a way that made him popular at show and tell. Sometimes classmates would bring their pets to him when they were acting strange, and Marcus would gently explain what was wrong. "Butterscotch is sad because your grandma usually feeds him, and he misses her since she went to the hospital. Spike's paw hurts, but he's hiding it. Check his left front foot. Princess isn't mean. She's scared because she can't see well anymore." He was never wrong. David and Rex visited occasionally. David's speech was slowly returning. Words came hard, but they came. Rex had fully recovered, though he was getting older, his muzzle gray now. They worked together as therapy teams, visiting veterans with PTSD, showing them that healing was possible. During one visit, Rex did something unexpected. He brought Marcus a stick, dropped it at his feet, then sat and stared at him intently. Marcus picked up the stick and immediately understood. "There's another dog," he told David. "Rex met him at the Veterans Hospital. He's like Rex was. He lost his soldier. Rex wants us to help him." David's eyes widened. He signed quickly, the words he couldn't speak yet. "How does Rex know?" Marcus smiled. "Dogs know. They always know who needs help." And so it began again. Rex, the dog who'd been saved, became a dog who saved others. With David and Marcus's help, they found 3 more military dogs whose handlers had died or disappeared. Dogs who were giving up, lost without their purpose. Each time, Rex would somehow communicate with them, showing them that life could continue, that love didn't end with loss. And Marcus, when needed, would translate what the dogs couldn't say in words. The local news did a follow-up story on the anniversary of the river rescue. They interviewed everyone involved, but it was Marcus's comment that went viral. "People think it's weird that I could hear what Rex was saying," he said, looking directly at the camera with those serious eyes. "But I think it's weird that other people couldn't." Rex was screaming for help for 2 years. He never stopped trying to save David. How could anyone not hear that kind of love? The reporter asked him if he still had his special connection with animals. Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I don't think it's special. I think everyone can do it if they listen with more than their ears. Animals tell us things all the time. We just got too busy to pay attention." The interview ended with footage of Marcus, David, and Rex walking together by the river, the same spot where it all began. The water was calm now, summer low and peaceful. Rex padded through the shallows, no longer afraid. David threw sticks for him, his movement still careful but growing stronger. And Marcus sat on the bank, watching them with a smile. But the story wasn't quite over. That night, Marcus had a dream. Not a regular dream, but the kind he'd had when Rex first showed him things. In the dream, he saw a small dog, a beagle, trapped somewhere dark. The dog was calling out, but not with barks, with something deeper. And somewhere, a little girl was crying, knowing her dog was in trouble, but unable to make anyone believe her. Marcus woke up and immediately called David. "There's another one," he said simply. David, who had learned to trust Marcus completely, just asked, "Where?" "I don't know yet," Marcus admitted, "but Rex will help us find them." He always does, because that was the truth Marcus had learned from Rex and David. Love doesn't just save one, it ripples outward, touching life after life, saving souls who didn't even know they needed saving. The next morning, Rex showed up at Marcus's house without David. Sarah found him sitting patiently at the front door, tail wagging. Pinned to his collar was a note in David's shaky handwriting. "Rex says it's urgent. Please let him show Marcus." And so, boy and dog set off on another rescue, another chance to prove that the bonds between humans and animals transcend explanation, that love speaks in frequencies only the heart can hear, and that sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. The story of Marcus and Rex had become legend in their town, but for them, it was just the beginning. Every saved life led to another call for help, another creature, human or animal, who needed someone to hear what they couldn't say. Marcus never fully understood why he could sense what animals felt. Maybe it was the near-drowning incident when he was 3 that his parents had mentioned. Maybe it was just the way he was born. Or maybe, as he told the reporter, everyone could do it if they just remembered how to listen. But understanding why didn't matter. What mattered was that when Rex had cried out in despair by that river, when he'd been slowly drowning with no hope of rescue, Marcus had heard him. And in hearing him, in saving him, Marcus had discovered his purpose. Years later, when Marcus was grown and had become a renowned animal behaviorist, he would look back on that day by the river as the moment his real life began, the moment he learned that love could speak without words, that loyalty could transcend death, and that sometimes the most profound connections come from the most unexpected places. But that was the future. For now, Marcus was just a 6-year-old boy with an extraordinary gift, walking beside a German shepherd who'd taught the world about the power of undying love. Together, they headed toward their next rescue, guided by the invisible threads that connect all living beings, threads that most people never see, but that Marcus and Rex followed like roads home. The beagle's cries were getting weaker. Marcus could feel it in his bones, that same tightening in his chest he'd felt when he first heard Rex by the river. But this time was different. This time, the images coming to him were fragmented, confused, like looking through broken glass. "She's underground," Marcus told his parents at breakfast, pushing his cereal around the bowl. "The beagle. She fell through something. And there's a girl who knows, but nobody believes her." Tom set down his coffee cup, exchanging a look with Sarah. They'd learned not to dismiss Marcus's feelings, not after everything with Rex. "Where, buddy? Do you know where?" Marcus closed his eyes, trying to focus on the sensation. Rex, who'd been staying with them while David was at a veterans conference, padded over and placed his head on Marcus's lap. The moment they touched, the image became clearer. "Old buildings," Marcus whispered. "Empty ones. By the train tracks. The girl goes there to read where it's quiet. Her name is Emma? No, Emily. She's 8. She heard Daisy, that's the beagle. She heard Daisy crying yesterday, but her mom said she was imagining things." Sarah was already reaching for her phone. "I'll call Detective Chen. She'll know if there are abandoned buildings by the train tracks." But Rex was already moving toward the door, whining urgently. Marcus stood up, understanding immediately. "Rex knows where. He can smell it on the wind. Death getting closer." The word hung in the air like a physical presence. Tom grabbed his keys. "Let's go." They drove toward the industrial part of town, Rex sitting alert in the back seat with Marcus, occasionally barking directions. "Turn left here. Straight. Now, right." Marcus translated each bark, each whine, as naturally as if Rex were speaking English. Detective Chen met them at the abandoned warehouse district, having taken Marcus's call seriously despite how insane it sounded. "We've had reports of kids playing in these buildings," she said. "It's dangerous. We've tried to seal them up, but they always find a way in." Rex was already out of the car, nose to the ground, following a scent trail only he could detect. Marcus stayed close beside him, one hand on the dog's back, receiving flashes of information. A girl's tears, the smell of old books, a small dog's terror. They found Emily sitting outside a partially collapsed building, crying. She was thin, with dark hair and braids, wearing a school uniform that was dusty and torn at the knee. When she saw the police car, she tried to run, but Marcus called out, "Emily, we're here about Daisy." The girl froze, turning slowly. Her eyes were red and puffy. "How do you know about Daisy?" "She's trapped inside, isn't she?" Marcus said gently. "You tried to tell someone, but they didn't believe you." Emily nodded, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. "She followed me yesterday. I come here to read where it's quiet. My house is loud. There's a hole in the floor in the back room. Daisy fell through. I tried to get her out, but it's too deep, and my mom said I was making it up to avoid getting in trouble for coming here and—" "Show us," Detective Chen interrupted, but her voice was kind. Emily led them into the building, despite Chen's obvious reluctance about bringing children into such a dangerous structure. The floor was littered with debris, walls tagged with graffiti. Sunlight filtered through holes in the roof, creating dusty columns of light. In a back room that might have once been an office, there was a jagged hole in the floor where boards had rotted through. From deep below came the faintest whimper. "Daisy!" Emily called down. "Daisy, hold on!" A weak bark answered her. Detective Chen shone her flashlight down the hole. It was at least 15 feet deep, opening into what looked like an old basement or subfloor. At the bottom, barely visible, was a small beagle, her leg bent at an unnatural angle. "We need fire and rescue," Chen said, reaching for her radio. But Rex was already moving. Before anyone could stop him, the German Shepherd had found another way down, a partially collapsed stairway hidden behind a fallen beam. He disappeared into the darkness. "Rex!" Marcus called, but he could feel the dog's determination. Rex knew what it was like to be trapped, to be dying alone in the dark. He wouldn't let another soul suffer that fate. They heard Rex's bark from below, then the sound of careful movement. Detective Chen's flashlight found them. Rex had reached Daisy and was gently licking her face, letting her know she wasn't alone anymore. "The stairs are unstable," Chen said. "We can't risk sending anyone down." But Marcus was already moving, his small size an advantage as he navigated the broken steps. Tom lunged for him, but missed. "Marcus, no!" "I have to," Marcus called back. "Rex is showing me the safe spots. I can see them." It was true. Through his connection with Rex, Marcus could sense which boards would hold, which sections of floor were solid. He moved with confidence that belied his 6 years, guided by Rex's knowledge of structural integrity learned from years of navigating dangerous terrain in Afghanistan. He reached the bottom safely, immediately kneeling beside Daisy. The beagle was in bad shape, dehydrated, injured, terrified. But when Marcus touched her, she calmed, sensing the same thing every animal sensed in him: safety, understanding, love. "Her leg is broken," Marcus called up, "but she's alive." Rex is keeping her warm. Captain Jake and his rescue team arrived within minutes. They set up proper equipment: ropes, pulleys, a basket stretcher designed for animals. Jake rappelled down himself, trusting Marcus's assessment of the situation. "You've got to stop meeting like this, kid," Jake said with a gentle smile. "First Rex by the river, now this." "Animals know I'll listen," Marcus said simply. "They know I'll help." Jake carefully lifted Daisy into the basket, her cries of pain making Emily sob harder above. Rex stayed close, nuzzling the beagle, somehow communicating that the pain was temporary, that safety was coming. They brought Daisy up first, then Marcus, then Rex. Jake came last, and just as he reached the top, the rest of the stairway collapsed with a thunderous crash. Another minute, and they all would have been trapped. Emily rushed to Daisy, dropping to her knees beside the injured dog. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have watched you better." "It's not your fault," Marcus told her. "Daisy says she followed a cat." "She loves chasing cats. She didn't mean to fall." Emily looked at him with wide eyes. "She says?" Marcus nodded. Not with words, but I can feel what she feels sometimes. She's not mad at you. She's just happy you found help. Dr. Wilson arrived with her mobile veterinary unit, immediately beginning treatment on Daisy. The leg would need surgery, she explained, but the dog would recover. The question was, what would happen after that? My mom's going to be so mad, Emily whispered. We're not supposed to have pets in our apartment. Daisy belonged to our neighbor, Mrs. Chen, but she died last month. I've been feeding Daisy secretly, but if Mom finds out... Detective Chen, no relation to the deceased. Mrs. Chen made a quick call. After a brief conversation, she knelt beside Emily. Your mom is on her way, and she's not mad. She's worried about you. 20 minutes later, a woman arrived who looked like an older version of Emily. Same dark hair, same worried eyes. She pulled Emily into a fierce hug, then looked at Daisy, who was sedated and receiving IV fluids. You should have told me, she said softly. You said no pets, Emily mumbled into her mother's shoulder. I said that before I knew you were sneaking off to dangerous buildings to read because our apartment is too noisy, her mother replied. Emily, honey, why didn't you tell me you needed quiet space? The conversation that followed was private, mother and daughter talking softly while Dr. Wilson worked on Daisy, but Marcus, sitting with Rex, could feel the emotional shift, walls coming down, understanding building. Later, as they prepared to leave, Emily's mother approached Marcus. Thank you, she said simply. Emily says you knew Daisy was here, that you heard her somehow. Marcus looked at Rex, who was watching Emily say goodbye to Daisy before the dog was transported for surgery. Sometimes, when someone needs help badly enough, the message finds a way to get through. You just have to be listening. Emily's mother studied him for a long moment. Emily's always been sensitive like that. She knows things about animals, feels things. The other kids think she's weird. She's not weird, Marcus said firmly. She's special. Like Rex, like Daisy. They all know how to love without words. That evening, David returned from his conference. He found Marcus and Rex in the backyard, sitting quietly together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Heard you saved another one, David said, his speech slow but clear. He'd been working hard with his therapist, and the words came easier now. Marcus nodded. Rex helped. He always knows what to do. David sat beside them, his hand finding Rex's head automatically. Rex learned something in Afghanistan. In war, you don't have time for doubt. You see someone who needs help, you help. Simple. Is that why he saved you for 2 years? Marcus asked. David was quiet for a moment. Rex saved me because that's who he is. But also because love doesn't calculate odds, it just loves. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars begin to appear. Then Rex suddenly stood, alert, facing north. Marcus felt it immediately, another call, another creature in distress. What is it? David asked. Marcus closed his eyes, trying to understand the sensation. Horses, a barn, fire. David was already standing, pulling out his phone. Where? But before Marcus could answer, they heard sirens in the distance. Lots of them. Rex was already moving toward the gate, ready to help, to serve, to save. The barn fire at Morrison Stables was visible from miles away. Orange flames licked at the night sky, smoke billowing in thick black clouds. Fire trucks were already on scene when David, Marcus, and Rex arrived, but the situation was chaos. 6 horses still inside, someone was screaming. The back stalls. We can't get to them. Marcus recognized the voice, Mrs. Morrison, who gave riding lessons to local kids. She was being held back by firefighters, fighting to get to her horses. Captain Jake was directing water streams at the structure, but Marcus could feel the horses' terror through Rex. They weren't just trapped by fire, they were trapped by fear, too panicked to follow evacuation routes, even if they were available. They won't come out the normal way, Marcus told David urgently. They're too scared. The smoke has confused them. David knelt beside Marcus. What do they need? Marcus put his hand on Rex, feeling the German shepherd's tactical mind working. Rex had dealt with panicked animals before, in Afghanistan, when bombs would spook the local livestock. A voice they trust, Marcus said, and a path they can smell, not see. He looked around, spotted a girl about 12, standing with her parents, tears streaming down her face. Marcus recognized her. Lucy Morrison, the stable owner's daughter. He'd seen her at school events. "Lucy," Marcus called. "Which horse is the lead mare?" Lucy looked confused but answered through her tears. "Star. She's in stall 4. If Star comes out, will the others follow?" Lucy nodded. "They always follow Star." Marcus turned to Captain Jake, who had noticed the conversation. "We need to get Lucy's voice to Star. And we need Rex to create a scent trail." Jake looked skeptical, but David stepped forward. "Captain, you've seen what Marcus and Rex can do. Trust them." Jake made a quick decision. "What do you need?" "Lucy's jacket or something with her scent," Marcus said, "and a way for her to talk to Star without going near the fire." Within minutes, they had a plan. Lucy spoke into a megaphone, her voice carrying over the chaos, calling to Star in the special way she always did. Meanwhile, Rex, wearing protective booties Jake's team provided, followed a firefighter toward a side entrance that was still accessible. Marcus stayed connected to Rex, feeling everything the dog felt, the heat, the smoke, the terror of the horses, but also Rex's calm determination, his training taking over. Rex entered the barn low to the ground where the smoke was thinner. He found Star first, the mare rearing in her stall, eyes rolling with fear. Rex did something that would have seemed insane to anyone watching. He lay down in front of the stall, completely calm, showing the horse there was no threat. "Rex is showing her it's safe to be low," Marcus explained to the watching crowd. "Horses don't usually lie down when there's danger. If Rex can lie down, Star knows the danger isn't immediate." It worked. Star stopped rearing, her head dropping to look at this strange dog. Rex slowly stood and began walking toward the exit, looking back at Star. He barked once, a specific bark Marcus recognized as "follow me." Lucy's voice came over the megaphone again. "Star, come on girl, follow the dog, bring everyone out." Star hesitated, then pushed at her stall door, which had been left unlatched in the evacuation attempt. She stepped out, and immediately the other horses began calling to her. "She's moving!" someone shouted. "The mare is moving toward the exit." Rex led them out, Star first, then one by one the others, following their leader through the smoke. He kept looking back, making sure they stayed together, occasionally barking to keep them focused on him instead of the fire. They emerged from the side entrance in a rush of hooves and smoke, 6 horses stumbling into the cool night air. Veterinarians rushed forward to check them, while Lucy threw her arms around Star's neck, sobbing with relief. Rex emerged last, his coat singed in places, booties melted from the heat. He walked straight to Marcus, and collapsed, exhausted but satisfied. "You did it," Marcus whispered, kneeling beside him. "You saved them all." Dr. Wilson appeared with oxygen for Rex, checking him over with professional efficiency. Minor smoke inhalation, some burnt paw pads despite the protection, but he'll be fine. Mrs. Morrison approached, tears streaming down her face. "How did he know?" "How did the dog know what to do?" David answered, his voice proud. "Rex is a soldier. Saving lives is what he does." But Marcus felt something else through his connection with Rex, a memory of Afghanistan, of leading panicked civilians away from a bombing, of David's voice in his ear saying, "Good boy, Rex. Lead them to safety." Rex had done this before. He was just doing what David had taught him. The local news arrived, cameras rolling, reporters eager for another story about the miracle dog and the boy who could understand him. But Marcus was focused on something else. Through Rex, he was feeling another distress signal, this one human. "Someone's still in there," he said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare at him. Mrs. Morrison shook her head. "No, we got everyone out. It's just horses." "No," Marcus insisted. "Rex smells someone. In the loft. They're unconscious." Captain Jake didn't hesitate this time. He sent a team to check the loft. Minutes later, they emerged carrying a teenage boy, one of the stable hands who'd been sleeping in the hayloft against regulations. He'd been overcome by smoke before he could escape. The paramedics worked on him, getting oxygen into his lungs. He'd survive, they announced, because he'd been found in time. Another few minutes, and it would have been too late. Mrs. Morrison was shocked. "Tommy? I didn't know he was here. He was supposed to have gone home. He must have been... Oh God, he's been sleeping here since his parents kicked him out. I had no idea." The story came out in pieces. Tommy, 17, had been living secretly in the barn for 2 weeks. He'd been too proud to ask for help, too ashamed to admit he was homeless. The fire had trapped him before he even woke up. Rex knew, Marcus said quietly. He could smell the difference between someone who was supposed to be there and someone hiding. As Tommy was loaded into an ambulance, conscious now and embarrassed, Mrs. Morrison made a decision. He'll stay with us when he gets out of the hospital. No one should have to hide like that. The crowd began to disperse, but Marcus noticed Rex wasn't relaxing. The German Shepherd kept facing the same direction, north, toward the mountains. His body was tense, alert. "What is it, boy?" David asked. Marcus touched Rex and immediately understood. The fire wasn't an accident. Rex can smell accelerant, gasoline, and he recognizes the scent, someone he's smelled before. Detective Chen, who'd arrived to help with crowd control, overheard. "Are you saying this was arson?" Marcus nodded, still connected to Rex. "Someone who's been here before, multiple times." Rex remembers them from the day at the river. They were in the crowd, watching. A chill ran through the assembled group. Someone had been watching them since the day Rex was rescued. Someone who had now committed arson, potentially murder, if Tommy hadn't been found. "Can Rex track the scent?" Detective Chen asked. Rex was already moving, nose to the ground, despite his exhaustion and injuries. Marcus stayed with him, feeling the dog's determination override his pain. David followed, along with Detective Chen and several officers. The trail led away from the barn, through a parking area, to a spot where tire tracks were still visible in the dirt. Rex circled the area, whining in frustration. The trail ended here. Whoever it was had driven away. But Marcus was getting something else from Rex. "Blue pickup truck, older model, the left taillight is broken, and there's a sticker on the back window, something about hunting." Detective Chen was taking notes rapidly. "That's very specific. Rex sees everything," Marcus explained. He was trained to notice details that might be threats. This person felt like a threat to him. Over the next few days, the investigation intensified. The accelerant was confirmed. The fire had been deliberately set. Security footage from nearby businesses was reviewed, and sure enough, a blue pickup matching Marcus's description was seen leaving the area just before the fire started. But it was what happened next that shocked everyone. Marcus was at school when he felt it, a sudden spike of fear from Rex, who was with David at their home. He stood up in the middle of reading time, his face pale. "Something's wrong," he told his teacher, Mrs. Anderson. "Rex is scared. Someone's at the house." Mrs. Anderson, who'd heard about Marcus's abilities but remained skeptical, tried to calm him. "I'm sure everything's fine, Marcus. Let's finish our reading." "No!" Marcus was already moving toward the door. "They have a gun." "The person from the fire. They're there for Rex." The principal was called, then the police, then Marcus's parents. By the time Sarah arrived to pick up Marcus, Detective Chen had already responded to David's house. They found David on his front porch, Rex beside him, facing down a man with a hunting rifle. The man was tall, thin, with wild eyes and shaking hands. His blue pickup was parked crooked in the driveway, left taillight broken, hunting sticker on the back window. "That dog knows," the man was shouting. "He knows what I did. I can see it in his eyes." David, remarkably calm despite having a gun pointed at him, spoke slowly. "Rex is just a dog, sir. He doesn't know anything." "Liar! I've been watching since the river. The boy talks to him. The dog tells him things. He's going to tell them about the others." Detective Chen and her team had surrounded the house, weapons drawn, but trying to de-escalate. "Sir, put the gun down. We can talk about this." The man swung, the rifle toward her voice. "No, you don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen, none of it. But the dog saw. At the river, he looked right at me. He knew." Marcus, despite his parents' attempts to keep him in the car, got out and walked slowly toward the scene. Something about the man was familiar, not his face, but his feeling, a darkness Rex had sensed before. "You're the one who tied Rex to the tree," Marcus said, his voice carrying clearly across the yard. Everyone froze. The man's eyes locked on Marcus. "No, that was Robert Miller." "You helped him," Marcus continued, Rex's memories flowing through him. "You were there that morning. You held Rex while Robert tied the knots. Rex remembers your smell, cigarettes, and fear." The man's hands shook harder. "Shut up!" You don't know anything." "You were part of it all," Marcus said, stepping closer despite the danger. "The conspiracy about David. You were the one who watched the cabin, made sure David didn't escape while Robert was gone. Rex saw you through the window." "Marcus, get back," Detective Chen ordered, but Marcus kept walking. "You set the fire at the barn because Mrs. Morrison was asking questions about David's disappearance. She was his friend. She didn't believe he went AWOL. The man was crying now, the rifle wavering. It was just supposed to be about money. Nobody was supposed to get hurt. But then David survived, and Robert said, we had to. You had to keep him quiet," Marcus finished, "but Rex wouldn't let David die. And that made you angry. So, when Robert got caught, you decided to punish Rex, first by trying to drown him, then by trying to shoot him." "The dog knows too much," the man screamed. "He's not natural. The way he looks at me, he knows everything." Rex stood up slowly, not aggressive, but ready. He barked once, a specific bark that Marcus understood immediately. "Rex says he forgives you," Marcus translated, and everyone stared at him in shock. "He says holding on to anger is like drowning slowly. He learned that while he was tied to the tree. He forgave you even then, because hate would have killed him faster than the water." The man collapsed to his knees, the rifle falling from his hands. Officers rushed in, securing the weapon and arresting him. As they led him away, he kept mumbling about the dog's eyes, about how they saw everything. Detective Chen approached Marcus afterward. "How did you know all that? Even Rex couldn't have seen everything you described." Marcus looked at Rex, who was being examined by David for injuries. Rex didn't see it all, but he felt it. Every time that man came near, Rex remembered his smell, his voice, the feeling of danger he brought. Dogs don't forget feelings. And when you piece together enough feelings, the truth becomes clear. The man, they learned, was named Carl Watson. He had been a clerk at the military base, one of the conspirators who'd helped fake David's MIA status. He'd been living in fear for 2 years that Rex would somehow expose him, a fear that had driven him to attempt murder twice, once at the river, once at the barn where he'd hoped to frame Tommy, the homeless stable hand. His confession revealed the final pieces of the conspiracy, implicating 2 more people who were swiftly arrested. The scandal rocked the military base and the community, but it also brought closure to David's ordeal. A week later, there was another ceremony. This time, it wasn't just for Rex. Marcus was given a special commendation from the city for his role in solving the case and saving lives. He stood on the platform, uncomfortable in his dress clothes, Rex and David beside him. "I don't deserve this," Marcus said into the microphone, his young voice clear. "I just listened. Rex did all the work. He survived 2 years of torture to save David. He faced fire to save horses. He forgave people who tried to kill him. I just told everyone what he was saying." The crowd was silent, moved by the boy's humility. "But I learned something," Marcus continued. "Every animal has a voice. Every creature has feelings. We just stopped listening. We got so busy with our human words that we forgot the language everything else speaks. The language of love and fear and hope and pain." Rex taught me to remember. The applause was thunderous, but Marcus barely heard it. He was focused on a sensation at the edge of his consciousness, another call for help, distant but insistent. After the ceremony, he told David about it. "There's something big coming. Not just one animal, many. Rex feels it too." David nodded, trusting completely. "Then we'll be ready." 3 days later, the earthquake hit. It wasn't massive, 5.2 on the Richter scale, but it was enough to collapse several older buildings downtown. One of them was an apartment complex that housed mostly elderly residents. Another was a daycare center, though thankfully it was evening and the center was closed. But the third was the city's animal shelter. Marcus felt it before the ground started shaking. Rex had been restless all day, pacing, whining, trying to communicate something urgent. When Marcus touched him, he felt it, the deep wrongness in the earth that animals can sense before humans. "Earthquake," Marcus had told his parents. "Soon. Really soon." Tom had just enough time to get everyone into the doorway before the shaking started. It lasted only 30 seconds, but those 30 seconds changed everything. The moment it stopped, Rex was at the door, barking urgently. Marcus understood immediately. "The shelter," he gasped. "The building came down." There are animals trapped, dogs, cats, rabbits, and people, the night staff. Sarah was already calling 911, but the lines were jammed. Tom grabbed his keys. "We're going." They weren't the only ones. By the time they reached the shelter, Captain Jake's team was already there, along with police, paramedics, and volunteers. The building hadn't completely collapsed, but a section of the roof had caved in, trapping anyone inside. 3 staff members unaccounted for, Jake was saying, and approximately 40 animals. Rex was already working, nose to the ground, cataloging scents. Marcus stayed with him, translating. 2 people in the back section, conscious but trapped. 1 person near the front, unconscious. The animals are scattered. Most are in their cages still, but some got loose in the collapse. Jake didn't question it anymore. He directed his teams based on Marcus's information. The rescue took all night. Rex led them to each trapped creature, sometimes having to be held back from digging with his injured paws. Marcus coordinated, somehow knowing which animals were most critical, which walls were stable, where to dig without causing further collapse. "There's a cat," he said at one point. "Orange tabby. She's in an air pocket, but she's having kittens. The stress triggered labor. They found her exactly where Marcus said, delivering kittens in the rubble. Dr. Wilson, who'd arrived to help, delivered the kittens by flashlight while the building groaned above them. By dawn, every person and animal had been extracted. 3 staff members with minor injuries, 38 animals saved, including the cat and her 4 newborn kittens. Only 2 animals had been lost. Both had been critically ill before the earthquake and didn't survive the stress. Marcus sat in the rubble afterward, exhausted, Rex's head in his lap. He could feel all of them, every rescued animal's relief, every reunited pet's joy. It was overwhelming, beautiful, and painful at once. "You okay, buddy?" David asked, sitting beside them. Marcus nodded, then shook his head. "I can feel them all the time now, not just Rex. Every animal in pain, every creature afraid. It's getting stronger." David was quiet for a moment. "That's a heavy burden for a 6-year-old. "Rex carries it too," Marcus said. "That's why he always knows where to go. He feels them calling, just like I do." "What do you want to do about it?" David asked. Marcus looked at the destroyed shelter, at the volunteers trying to figure out where to house all the rescued animals. "We need a place. A safe place where animals can go when they're hurt or scared, where people like me, kids who hear things others don't, can learn to help." David smiled. "That's a big dream." "Rex had a big dream too," Marcus pointed out. "Keeping you alive for 2 years. He did it." The idea took root quickly. The story of the earthquake rescue went national, and donations poured in. Not just money, but offers of land, building materials, volunteer labor. Within a month, ground was broken on the Marcus and Rex Center for Animal Communication and Rescue. It would be more than just a shelter. It would be a place where children who showed unusual sensitivity to animals could learn to develop their gifts. Where traumatized animals could be paired with humans who understood them. Where the bond between species could be studied and celebrated. But that was the future. First, there were more immediate concerns. Emily, the girl whose beagle they had rescued from the collapsed building, had started visiting Marcus regularly. She had the gift too, he realized. Not as strong as his, but definitely there. Daisy had recovered from her injuries and Emily's mother had agreed to keep her, but Emily wanted to do more. "Teach me," she asked Marcus one afternoon. "Teach me how to hear them better." Marcus didn't know how to teach something that came so naturally to him, but Rex did. The German Shepherd worked with Emily and Daisy, showing them how to communicate without words, how to trust the feelings that passed between them. Lucy Morrison from the stables joined them, bringing Star, the mare who'd led the others from the fire. Tommy, the homeless boy they had rescued, came too once he was released from the hospital. He didn't have the gift of understanding animals, but he had something else, a deep empathy for creatures who'd been abandoned because he knew how it felt. They met in Marcus's backyard at first, an informal group of kids and animals learning from each other. Rex was always at the center, the teacher who'd survived the impossible and could show others how to do the same. During one session, Marcus felt a familiar sensation, someone in distress, but this time it was different. Not an animal, a person, a child. "There's a boy," he said suddenly. "Lost in the woods. He's been missing since yesterday. He's hurt and scared, and there's a dog with him. Not his dog. A stray who found him. Detective Chen, who'd started attending the sessions to better understand what Marcus could do, immediately called it in. There was indeed a missing child, 7-year-old Jason Park, who'd wandered away from a camping trip. "Can Rex track him?" she asked, but Marcus shook his head. "Too far, but..." He closed his eyes, reaching out with the sense he didn't fully understand. "The dog with him is special. Like Rex, she's keeping him warm, bringing him water from a stream. She's one of the shelter dogs, from the earthquake, a border collie named Sage. She escaped during the rescue, and everyone thought she ran away, but she was looking for someone to save. The search area was narrowed based on where Sage had been spotted in recent days. Within hours, Jason was found, exactly as Marcus described, injured but alive, with Sage curled protectively around him. The story made headlines again. The boy who could find missing children through their connection with animals. The requests started pouring in, missing pets, lost children, animals in distress. It was too much for one small boy to handle. "I can't save them all," Marcus cried one night, overwhelmed by the constant pull of creatures in need. Rex nuzzled him gently, and David sat beside them. "You don't have to save them all," David said. "That's not your job." "Then what is?" David thought, for a moment. "Your job is to teach others to listen, to show them that the connection exists. Rex didn't save just me, he showed the world that love can do impossible things. You're doing the same thing." The Marcus and Rex Center opened 6 months later. It wasn't huge or fancy, but it was perfect. Treatment rooms for injured animals, training areas for service dogs, classrooms where children with special sensitivities could learn to understand and use their gifts. And at the center of it all, a memorial garden with a statue of Rex and Marcus by the river, capturing the moment where everything began. The opening ceremony drew hundreds of people. David spoke, his speech now almost fully recovered. "2 years ago, I was dying in a cabin, kept alive only by a dog's love. Rex didn't just save my body, he saved my soul. He showed me that connection transcends species, that love doesn't need words, that loyalty can overcome any obstacle." He paused, looking at Marcus and Rex. But Rex didn't do it alone. It took a 5-year-old boy who still knew how to listen with his heart. Marcus heard what everyone else missed, a soul crying out for help. And in saving Rex, in saving me, he discovered something amazing. He discovered that we're all connected, every living thing, by invisible threads of emotion and need and love. Marcus was asked to speak too, but he was more interested in something else. Rex was alerting again, facing east this time. Through their connection, Marcus felt it. Not distress this time, but something else. Joy, new life. "What is it?" Sarah asked. Marcus smiled. "The shelter cat, the one who had kittens in the earthquake. One of her kittens is special, like Rex, like me. She knows things, and she's choosing her person right now." They turned to see a little girl, maybe 4 years old, who'd come to the opening with her parents. She was kneeling by the adoption area, and a small orange kitten was walking straight to her, purposeful, determined. "That's Spark, Doctor," Wilson said. "The smallest of the litter. We weren't sure she'd survive." "She survived because she was waiting," Marcus said. "Waiting for her person, like Rex waited for David, like I waited for Rex." The little girl picked up Spark, and both Marcus and Rex felt it. The click of connection, the bond forming. Another child who would grow up knowing how to listen. Another animal who would teach impossible lessons about love. As the months passed, the center grew, not in size, but in impact. Children came from around the country, kids who'd been labeled strange or difficult because they insisted they could understand animals. Here, they weren't strange, they were gifted. Marcus worked with each of them, though he was still just 6 years old himself. Rex was the real teacher, showing by example how to bridge the gap between species. Old now, moving slower, but still strong in spirit. One day, a military convoy arrived at the center. Not unusual, many veterans came to work with Rex, finding healing in his presence. But this was different. They brought with them a dog, a young German shepherd who looked remarkably like Rex had in his prime. "This is Valor," the sergeant explained. "Rex's son. We didn't know Rex had sired a litter before his deployment, but DNA confirms it. Valor's been in training, but he's different. He knows things he shouldn't know. Finds IEDs that our equipment misses. Alerts to medical emergencies before they happen. We heard about your center and thought... Marcus approached Valor slowly. The moment they made eye contact, he felt it. The same depth of awareness he felt with Rex, but younger, untrained. Valor came forward, sniffing Marcus's hand, then looking at Rex. Father and son stood facing each other, and something passed between them. Knowledge, memory, purpose. Rex was teaching Valor everything in that moment, passing on not just instinct, but wisdom. He'll stay here, Marcus said. He'll learn from Rex, then carry on his work. The sergeant nodded. That's what we hoped. As Rex grew older and frailer, Valor grew stronger and more capable. The torch was passing, not just from dog to dog, but from generation to generation. Emily could now understand animals almost as well as Marcus. Lucy had developed a gift for calming panicked creatures. Tommy had become an expert at recognizing signs of abuse and neglect. The center's influence spread. Other cities started similar programs. Universities began studying the human-animal connection more seriously. What had started with a boy hearing a dog's cries by a river had become a movement. One evening, as Marcus sat with Rex in the memorial garden, the old dog's head in his lap, he felt something shift. Rex was tired, so tired. He'd lived years longer than most German shepherds, held on by will and love. "It's okay," Marcus whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You can rest now. Valor knows what to do. I know what to do. You taught us." Rex's tail wagged weakly. Through their connection, Marcus felt no fear, no sadness, only satisfaction. The mission was complete. David was safe. Marcus had learned to listen. Others were learning too. The work would continue. David arrived, somehow knowing he was needed. He sat beside them, his hand on Rex's side. "Good boy," he whispered. "The best boy. You saved me in every way a person can be saved." Rex looked at David, then at Marcus, then at Valor, who sat nearby, watching solemnly. His eyes closed peacefully, and Marcus felt the great heart slow, then stop. But the connection didn't break. It transformed. Marcus could still feel Rex, not as a living presence but as something else. A memory so powerful it had its own life. A love so strong it transcended death. They buried Rex in the memorial garden, under the statue. Hundreds came to the funeral. Veterans Rex had comforted. Children he'd taught. Animals he'd saved. Each told a story of how Rex had changed their life. Marcus spoke last. "Rex taught me that love is a language everyone can speak. You don't need words. You don't need to be the same species. You just need to listen with your heart." He saved David's life, but more than that, he saved all of us from forgetting how to really connect with each other. He paused, looking at Valor, who sat at attention beside the grave. "Rex isn't really gone. He lives in every animal we save, every child who learns to listen, every moment when someone reaches across the space between species and makes a connection. He showed us the way. Now, we have to follow it." Years passed. Marcus grew up, became a veterinarian and animal behaviorist. The center expanded into a nationwide network. Emily became a researcher, studying interspecies communication. Lucy opened therapeutic writing programs across the country. Tommy became an advocate for homeless youth, always making sure they had safe places to go. And Valor carried on Rex's work, paired with a new child who had the gift. The little girl who'd adopted Spark the kitten, now grown older and ready to learn. The cycle continued, each saved life leading to more saved lives, rippling outward like waves from a stone dropped in still water. All because a 5-year-old boy heard a dog crying by a river and refused to walk away. Marcus, now doctor, Marcus Carter, still had the gift. If anything, it had grown stronger with age. He could feel the network of connections spanning the globe. Every child learning to listen, every animal finding its voice, every bridge built between species. Sometimes, late at night in the memorial garden, he would sit by Rex's grave and tell him about all the lives saved, all the connections made. And sometimes, when the wind was just right and the world was quiet, he could swear he felt Rex's presence. Not a ghost, but an echo of love so powerful, it had become part of the earth itself. "We did it, boy," Marcus would whisper. "We changed the world. one rescue at a time. And somewhere, in whatever place heroes go when their work is done, Rex's tail would wag. The story of Marcus and Rex became legend, told and retold, each telling adding new details, but always coming back to the same truth. Love speaks a language that transcends words, and sometimes the smallest voices carry the most important messages. Children around the world grew up knowing that, if they listened carefully enough, they might hear an animal calling for help. And if they answered that call, they might discover, as Marcus had, that saving another soul is really about saving yourself. The river where it all began became a pilgrimage site of sorts. People would come and stand where Marcus had stood, remembering that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about being afraid and acting anyway. They would think about Rex, who'd endured 2 years of impossible conditions for love. They would think about David, who'd survived against all odds because a dog refused to let him die. And they would think about Marcus, who had heard a cry for help and changed the world by answering it. But the real memorial to Rex wasn't a place or a statue. It was in every moment when someone chose compassion over indifference, when someone listened with their heart instead of just their ears, when someone recognized that every living creature has value and deserves to be heard. The last entry in Marcus's journal, written decades later, captured it perfectly. Rex taught me that we're all connected by invisible threads of need and love and hope. When one of us hurts, we all hurt. When one of us is saved, we're all lifted up. The gift he gave me wasn't just the ability to understand animals, it was the knowledge that understanding is always possible if we're willing to truly listen. Every creature has a voice, every soul has a story. We just have to remember how to hear them. The work continues to this day. In cities and towns around the world, children are learning to listen, animals are finding their voices, and the connection between species grows stronger, one rescue at a time. All because a boy heard a dog crying by a river and refused to walk away. All because love speaks louder than words. All because Rex kept his promise, and Marcus kept his. The ripples continue to spread, touching lives in ways no one could have predicted. Every saved animal, every child who learns to listen, every moment of connection between species, they all trace back to that moment by the river when Marcus first heard Rex's cry. And in the end, that's what matters. Not the fame or the accolades or the centers built in their honor. What matters is that a dog's love saved a man, a boy's compassion saved a dog, and together they saved countless others. The message is simple but profound. Listen, love, act. Because somewhere, right now, a creature is calling for help. And somewhere, right now, someone like Marcus is learning how to hear them. The story never really ends. It just begins again, with each new connection, each new rescue, each new moment when love transcends the barriers we think divide us. Rex's legacy lives on, not in monuments or memorials, but in the living, breathing network of compassion that spans the globe. Every time someone chooses kindness over cruelty, every time someone hears a cry for help and responds, every time love proves stronger than fear, Rex's spirit is there. And Marcus, he's still listening, still teaching, still proving every day that the smallest acts of compassion can change the world. Because that's what Rex taught him. That's what Rex taught all of us. Love doesn't calculate odds. It just loves. And sometimes, that's enough to save the world. One rescue at a time. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in the power of connection between humans and animals, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment below about a time when an animal changed your life, or when you heard a call for help that others missed. Let's spread Rex and Marcus's message that love speaks in frequencies only the heart can hear, and every creature deserves someone who will listen. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in the power of compassion.